Hello everyone, my name is Smruti and I'm from Supreme Creations and Bags of Ethics. And I'm delighted to be talking to a very good friend of mine, Fiona, who's become a friend over many years of working together as a supplier and client. Fiona is an exceptionally experienced marketing director who's worked for many household brands. And we thought it would be great to talk to you as our audience about an experienced marketing director using services at Supreme Creations, how the creative process worked, what the brief was, and any top tips. Thank you so much for agreeing to chat, Fiona. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into marketing?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in marketing now about 20 years, I suppose. So a variety of different industries. Started off in events and then moved into retail. Worked for a big consumer goods company and then moved into kind of working for smaller businesses more recently in the last sort of 5-6 years. So lots of different experience, I guess.
Yeah. And now you're a business owner yourself.
Yes, I just recently launched my own sort of online business music stories, which has been quite exciting in the last year. Yeah, it's been great.
So did you have any sort of methodology of how you would have a marketing budget and see how you would want to split it across the different sort of marketing channels, and then why you chose to work with Supreme Creations on a product?
Yeah, so when I worked with you, that was within a small business, relatively small business, and so the ROI and everything was super important. So in terms of we had a sort of budget for more brand building, but then a lot of budget went on direct activity as well. So but even with the brand building stuff, we had quite a clear sort of spend and then what we were planning to get from that. The tote bags that we did with you was very much a brand building exercise, but with a very sort of clear ROI in terms of measuring brand awareness. So that was working with an estate agent, and we were trying to build up brand awareness in our different local areas of London, essentially. So the bags were a fantastic way of getting our brand out there into the local community. But key to that as well was measuring the impact. So we did regular sort of brand awareness surveys in the local area after a kind of drop of the bags, actually the great thing with bags as well was that we the sort of longevity of them, essentially. So even when we did a drop, we'd have an increase in brand awareness, but then you'd still see people using them over time. So we did sort of 6-monthly kind of surveys to see the impact over time as well. So,
how did you interview people? Were they people who came into the agency, or were they just generally local people in the areas of where Chiswick or Fulham or wherever you were trying to promote your new agency?
So yeah, so we tried to do it sort of have the same sort of like for like comparison. So we had teams of people actually on the streets within the local area, so with a certain distance away from the estate agent, and literally it was kind of customer surveys on the street, really, in terms of our brand, how aware of our brand they were, and kind of very simple questions of spontaneous and kind of awareness to see the kind of that was the main kind of way of us getting our brand out locally. So it was quite kind of easy to see the impact, really.
Did you attribute any sort of numbers to any targets that you wanted to hit, or any numbers that you can share with the audience about the ROI?
Yeah, so we used to do quite sort of big volumes, targets kind of in a certain area, local area, and then we'd measure sort of prompted and spontaneous awareness. So and then correlate that with the local business unit. Obviously we had the revenue for that business unit, and to measure the correlation, really, in terms of where we had very good sort of spontaneous or awareness, then link and seeing that in terms of revenue as well. It's obviously one contributing factor, but actually over time you could see quite a good pattern in terms of particularly certain areas of London where we the bag was used quite with tenants and landlords and the people who came into the estate agency. That did really help in terms of building awareness, and that then fed through to the revenue as one of the contributing factors. But yeah, it actually is quite nice to sort of see the graphs, in terms of the kind of investment that we had made, and then the kind of percentages of prompted and spontaneous awareness in those areas.
With marketing these days, especially digital marketing, everything is pretty clear in terms of if you're spending money on a Google advertising platform or Instagram and Facebook adverts, you can see the journey of the customer from page one to clicking through and converting whatever event or purchase that you want them to make. But often with gifts with purchase or GWPs, they sort of call it in retail, or in what we were doing with you, it was a straight sort of promotional merchandise, sustainable promotional merchandise, albeit. But sometimes it can be quite difficult for brands to track. But historically, we have seen, we've worked with many global brands, and sometimes we get feedback directly from the brands and sometimes we don't. But one big campaign that we ran, we saw that there was an increase in footfall into the retail outlets globally by about 10%, just because they were incentivized to get that bag, and 10% is a very large number in the marketing world. So it's very nice to hear that you were able to scientifically track that if a prospective client was given this bag, A, you were building awareness of the brand, but B, there was a direct impact on revenue that you were measuring.
And it's really, really important actually of everything we did, particularly when having worked in big corporates and then moving to smaller businesses, where the budgets are super tight, and you kind of everything, you really do need to sort of have some way of measuring the impact that follows through to sort of revenue. And so it's actually and it's a campaign that we then continued actually pretty much every year really since we launched it. So and targeting different groups, sometimes different areas, or focusing on different areas. And as we took over new offices as well, it was a kind of way of getting the brand out there. So
you were dominating across London. As I used to drive across London, I would see different areas of London suddenly bloom with these bags with your brand on it. So that it's wonderful. Now we've known each other for a number of years, partly because we've worked so closely on this campaign, and I very much enjoyed helping you launch this kind of brand building exercise through the bags. And it was a very simple design that we landed on at the end, but very effective. And I remember one of the product drops that we did was we rolled up the bag for you and tied a little sort of ribbon and a little swing tag and stuck it through, helped you stick it through letterboxes as like a newspaper. And I thought that was really innovative. And
that was another way of measuring actually. So we did a little tag that had a kind of obviously URL link to the website, and then you can also see the traffic impact of that as well. So so it had the borders of brand awareness, but it also had actually a direct use the measurable sort of traffic to the URL, which is on the little tag as well. So there's quite lots of different ways that we could use it promotionally as well. So
really clever. We're very good at procurement and very good at sort of negotiating really good deals with us, and we were really happy to work with you. But could you tell us, and obviously we've known each other for many years now, but I want you to objectively say what were the kind of core reasons that you chose to work with us? Because I'm sure you wouldn't have chosen to work with us even if we were friends, unless you really felt. And we become friends after this, not because of it.
I think there's a couple of things actually in terms of the quality of the product actually was quite key, because actually this is kind of a product that's had longevity with people and therefore helping brand awareness. And the ethical kind of story as well was quite important. It generally, we wanted to do something that wasn't just one of those throwaway promotional kind of things that just ends up in landfill sort of thing. So that was quite important as well. But I think also just I think you understood a bit more our strategy and actually interested in the kind of what we were trying to achieve, not just the product, which was a completely different experience to the other people that we spoke to, so who were kind of actually just more focused on price and sort of volume and things. So I think the fact that you were sort of willing to work with us more as a kind of partner to try and create something that would work was also another reason, I think. So
Thank you. I think what you've highlighted is that we like to be partners and as a kind of creative agency who own the entire supply chain. So it's not only let's manufacture your product to a specification, let's really try and understand your brief, your strategy, what do you want out of this, and work within the constraints of that, and then deliver a product, which obviously has to meet very high sustainability credentials. But as you know, Bags of Ethics is the label that you were very happy to, you loved the Bags of Ethics label. It stands for people and planet and product. And for us, the product element is absolutely critical, because we put a very bold statement that, you should be able to use this product at least 5,000 times, which is a pretty bold statement. But it stands the test of time. How important is it, and should it be, when sourcing a promotional item?
Yeah, I think it has to be critical these days. I think the consumer, otherwise, it kind of has to be a sustainable product. It's sort of these promotional. There's a risk that promotional material becomes, sort of one-off use, one-off purpose, and actually there's a lot more value in it in terms of if someone is going to keep that product, because and it's able to be kept for a while, to buying something. In terms of, there's always a conflict of price, isn't there? To try and get the lowest price for something promotional. But actually, if you look at the kind of return, if you spend that little bit extra, then you've got that product in that consumer's hands that is going to last a lot longer. So it depends on what you're measuring exactly, but it often pays back essentially to pay that little bit extra. And people are very aware these days, much more environmentally aware. Consumers are much more aware as well. So they sometimes can be put off your brand if it's something that they think is wasteful or kind of one-off use. So I think it also helps your brand if you're producing something sustainable for people.
Are there any parting tips that you'd love to give to anyone who's considering working with us? Anything about the methodology, our process? Any tips that you'd like to share before we sign off?
I would just say, I think what I've really enjoyed working with you is sort of working with you as a bit more of a partner in terms of the objectives. So, kind of always chat to you about the kind of what are your main objectives in terms of marketing. If the client can work with you more closely on that, then there's the opportunity to create some really great products that's very specific to what they want to achieve. So, I'd always kind of make sure you really, as a client, explain kind of what you're trying to achieve, and whether that's brand objectives or promotional kind of direct website traffic, that kind of thing, because then you can really create the right product, and create a campaign that has longevity. So that would be my top tips.
Brilliant top tips. Thank you so much, Fiona. I've learned so much from you over the past few years, and as a consequence developed a wonderful friendship and partnership. So just have to say thank you always. And